Before we begin, I must warn you that the following story contains intense and disturbing content. Viewer discretion is advised. The old asylum at Hollow Creek has stood abandoned for decades, its decaying walls holding secrets that most locals would rather forget. I never believed in ghost stories or urban legends, but after what I experienced there, I can't deny the terrifying reality of what lurks within those crumbling halls. It was a crisp autumn evening when I first arrived in Hollow Creek. The small town seemed frozen in time, with weathered storefronts and flickering streetlights casting long shadows across empty sidewalks. As I checked into the only motel on Main Street, the elderly clerk eyed me suspiciously. "What brings you to our little town?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I explained that I was an urban explorer, interested in photographing abandoned buildings. Her face paled when I mentioned the asylum. "That place is cursed," she hissed, leaning in close. "People go missing up there. Some say they hear screams echoing from the woods at night." I smiled politely, assuming it was just local superstition. But as I settled into my room that night, I couldn't shake the uneasy feeling that had settled over me. The next morning, I struck up conversations with townspeople, hoping to gather more information about the asylum's history. An old-timer at the diner told me about a mass patient escape in the 1960s that ended in tragedy. A shopkeeper whispered about ghostly figures seen wandering the grounds on foggy nights. Each story was more chilling than the last, but I remained skeptical. As the sun began to set, I drove up the winding road to the asylum. The imposing structure loomed before me, its broken windows like hollow eyes staring down accusingly. The air grew colder as I approached, and an unnatural silence fell over the overgrown grounds. With flashlight in hand, I made my way inside through a gap in the chain-link fence. The beam of light cut through the darkness, revealing peeling paint and debris-strewn corridors. My footsteps echoed ominously as I explored the ground floor, documenting the decay with my camera. In what must have been an old nurse's station, I found stacks of moldering patient files. As I flipped through the yellowed pages, a chill ran down my spine. So many tragic stories, lives lost to madness and neglect. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Moving deeper into the asylum, I came across walls covered in disturbing graffiti, desperate pleas for help and cryptic warnings scrawled in what looked disturbingly like dried blood. My skin crawled as I photographed the macabre artwork. As I turned a corner, my flashlight flickered and died. In the pitch darkness, I fumbled for my phone, heart pounding. When the screen illuminated, I found myself face to face with a figure in a tattered hospital gown. I stumbled backward with a strangled cry, but when I looked again, there was nothing there. Trying to calm my nerves, I told myself it was just my imagination playing tricks. But as I continued my exploration, more inexplicable things began to happen. Doors slammed shut on their own. Whispers echoed from empty rooms. Icy patches of air chilled me to the bone, even as sweat beaded on my forehead. In what must have been a treatment room, I found rusted equipment that sent shivers down my spine. As I examined an ancient electroshock machine, the lights suddenly flickered to life. Impossible in an abandoned building with no power. Before I could react, I was thrown against the wall by an unseen force. Panic set in as I scrambled to my feet and ran. The hallways seemed to stretch endlessly before me, twisting and changing with each turn. Ghostly figures darted at the edge of my vision, and human screams echoed in my ears. I no longer cared about my equipment or my skepticism. I just wanted to escape. After what felt like hours of terrified flight, I finally burst through the front doors and into the cool night air. I didn't stop running until I reached my car, peeling out of the parking lot with tires squealing. As I sped down the mountain road, I glanced in my rearview mirror. For a moment, I saw hundreds of pale faces pressed against the asylum windows, watching me flee. When I looked again, the building stood dark and silent as ever. I left Hollow Creek that very night and never returned. The horrors I witnessed in that asylum will haunt me for the rest of my days. Sometimes I still wake up in a cold sweat, convinced I can hear ghostly whispers carried on the wind. The old asylum still stands, patient and malevolent, waiting for the next foolish soul to cross its threshold. If you ever find yourself in Hollow Creek, heed my warning. Stay far away from that cursed place. Some secrets are better left buried. If you've had your own brush with the paranormal, share your story in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more true tales of terror. Until next time, sleep tight and keep the lights on.